You know, I actually kind of like it.
I like it. It's a cool little car. It does need
it needs stuff. Needs a lot of little things.
But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Like, one of the little things it needs is it obviously needs some more ATF because most of it leaked out on the driveway trying to bring it up here.
It was marking its path. Like
it was definitely marking its territory because it marked it from the street out there all the way up to here and
until it ran out of ATF.
A bit, yeah. This is a friend of mine's car. Now, this car belongs to a buddy of mine over in Atlanta. He bought the car sight unseen out of California. Not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes these things can go really well and sometimes they can go not so well. But what we're going to talk about today is the good, the bad, and the ugly on this car and some of the things that you can hopefully see out of a car like this that you buy off of eBay or off of an auction site or even a for sale site online. We're going to go through the car and we're going to try to hopefully see what it is. I'm going to go into what that took to get it up the driveway. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is good, bad, and ugly, but we're going to start off with bad first and then move to ugly and then move to good because I want to close out on the engine bay or whatever we're doing on here with good. Yes. I want to talk about the good things last because there are some good things on this car. Yes. Now, the bad in this engine bay, one of the first things I'll say about bad is it is missing the strut brace on the passenger side of the car. That is a bad.
Yes, very bad.
You have to have that strut brace in order to get good chassis out of this car. Mm-hmm. Probably what I'll recommend to the owner is to go in and get an export brace, and we'll put an export brace on there, and that'll stiffen the chassis up and make the car's front end will line out the way it's supposed to be.
And drive much, much better.
And it will drive much, much better. Another bad that I see on here is there's some issues where the wiring's actually been burned by the exhaust manifolds. We don't know if there's exposed wire underneath that casing that's burned up, so that's a bad because that will probably have to be, I think some of the wiring may be needing to be replaced.
Battery cables are done horribly. And
that's a bad too. Those need to be replaced. That's, again, anytime we're talking about bad, it's stuff that you're going to have to spend money to replace it. And then there's the shock on the other side. The shock needs to be replaced because that shock is actually eating into the shock mounting bracket, telling me that that shock's been like that a long, long time. I don't know if that's indicative of another problem down inside the shock tower or not, but we'll get to that when we start moving through the rest of that part of the car on this automobile.
Bad, I'd also say, is power steering mount.
I would say bad because you're going to have to go in, and find stock components to replace that with. That is a factory Ford power it's the pump, but it's not mounted correctly, and it looks like we're missing the adjustment bracket for the bottom of it, so some stuff's going to have to be bought to fix that. Ugly? The ugly is just a lot of the routing of the way things were done in this engine bay. And if you guys want to see a video on how we could neaten this engine bay up without doing anything other than that, just cleaning the valve covers, making things look a little bit better, let us know in the comments below. We'll do a video on how to neaten this thing up and make it look really nice.
There's a lot of improvements that could be made with nothing but time.
And that's what the ugly is all about. Ugly is stuff that's just not as pretty as it could be, and we could go in and fix that. So that's what we're talking about right now, is what the ugly is. There's some wiring stuff that's an easy fix, like there's an exposed wire on the one-wire alternator.
That's the hot wire.
That's the hot wire. That's a bad and an ugly, so I'm not sure how to deal with that one. But just hose routing for the AC hoses, hose routing for the heater hoses.
General harness routing.
The solenoid for the hot water on it is right up on top of the valve cover.
On the engine, perfect for longevity of that solenoid.
And it's been routed around the back side of the hold down. Anyway.
Vacuum secondary rod is hitting one of the coolant hoses.
That's not a good thing, by the way. So what we're going to talk about now is the good on this car. The good in the engine bay on this thing is this is 289, factory 289 car. We're talking about a car that has an aftermarket nice AC system put on it, probably from the guys at Vintage Air. It does have power steering. It's a factory power steering, but honestly, I don't really have a problem with those systems. We have one on our 69 Fairlane. It works fine. Yeah. One-wire alternator conversion. It already has an aftermarket harness in it, I think, because of what we're seeing with the wiring in the engine bay.
Aftermarket cooling system already.
And it's got dual fans. We may be able to drop one of those fans just simply because I don't think it's going to need that once we tune it out.
And you don't need a push and a pull.
Exactly, exactly. So, I mean, I think that there's a ton of good things. It's a power disc brake car, too. It's not just disc brakes. Somebody went to the trouble of putting the power booster on the car. Pedal effort inside the car seems pretty decent. So, overall, I don't think it's a bad thing. So it's got a lot of good meat on the front of the car. If I were to look at this car on an auction site, obviously I would try to get it as cheap as I could, but I would see all the little things that I'm noticing on here and realize that a lot of it really is just ugly.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I mean, you could even just go in and put a stock brace back in here if you wanted to, and not spend the money for an export brace.
And the car itself is pretty clean.
And it's a cute little car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, well, he's a guy. He probably won't call his car cute, but it's a nice looking little car.
It's a nice little pony.
Such a nice little pony.
All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move over to the interior and look at what we've got going on in there and see what he got for his money inside of the car. So I'm just going to sit down in there and get comfortable. Cam, he can sit here and be really pissed off about that battery.
It is very much annoying me. Very much.
All right, I am inside the 67 Mustang hardtop, and I'm going to go off again with the bad first. Now, there is some bad on this car that we know about from the owner, and that is that we have probably one of two things. We either have a radio aerial hole that's leaking, or we have a cowl vent leak. I'm going to hope for a radio aerial hole leak, simply because I can see mold on the carpet down here. A lot of times when people put aftermarket radios in, they'll put that gasket in, but they don't seat it correctly, and water will continue to come in through that hole. A lot of water cascades down that corner because of the A-pillars and all. So it's all up underneath that kick panel, and I'm not going to start tearing the interior apart today to check on it. But we know we have a problem, so it's something we're going to want to investigate on the car. Another one that I would call a bad on this one is the carpet. If you're just driving around in a daily driver situation, this carpet works fine because it covers the floor. But in my opinion, if you want a really nice looking inside on this Mustang, you're going to want to go in and replace this. Also another one that's kind of going to go in the ugly bad area. If that radio works and you can get AM FM radio stations on it, that'll be fine. If that radio doesn't work, you're going to want to go in and replace it. Now the owner has gone in and installed a Sirius system on the car, which he probably uses that to listen to, which is fine. But from my point of view, if I still want to sometimes go out and pick up FM radio, I would want to go in and replace this with something like a retro sound radio for the car, and they have a ton of nice ones through retro sound, and it will still tie into your Sirius system, so all that can be reintegrated into it. Another bad is probably our steering wheel here. Our steering wheel is not in really great shape. It's been in this car for a good while. It's pretty tatty looking. I would personally go in and spend the money on the Shelby look wheel that they've got available. You can get that through National Parts Depot. They carry those wheels. Could be replaced with something a lot cooler. Now I'm going to go into the ugly. And ugly on the car is like the areas around the AC vents. Those are kind of tatty looking. That could be cleaned up. It just needs a general cleaning. The instrument cluster is hanging low because I think there's probably a little bit of interference with these gauges that are in here. So your instrument cluster is not exactly sitting where it needs to be. You got some wireage hanging out underneath the panel here. All right, now one other thing I want to talk about that's an ugly or a bad, depending on how you want to look at it. I say it's an ugly because the cards aren't that expensive, and that's the door panels on these. Somebody's gone in and thoughtfully put in screws, and that's not how you hold these on. The door panels, I would replace them and go in and put a set of new pulls on it. The pulls are in really tatty shape. They may even be the originals to the car, but I don't think so. I think they're just older aftermarkets. All right, now the really good thing on this car is there's a lot of tasty parts in here. Aside from the tatty steering wheel, you have a nice I Did It column in here with full tilt. It looks like it's also the polished column. I'm not big on polished columns personally, but it's in here. I would just clean it up, put some Autosol on it, and be done with it. It's an older I Did It, but that's okay. I like the column. I would leave it alone. It's also got a nice set of gauges in it. These are the Pro Comps from Autometer. It's a great gauge set. 10,000 RPM range. I'm not sure why that's there, but it's nice. It's got a nice even flow. This car will probably never see the high side of 160. If it does, the owner will probably be in a screaming fit because he's like, careening out of control and hitting things. Hello, kitty. That's a cat. She's helping. So those are really good things. Headliner's in decent shape. Sail panels could use some work, but those can be fixed and cleaned up and worked. A-pillar pads are in really good shape on this car. Dash pad's in really good shape. The knee pad looks like it's an original and it's in really good shape. Paint inside the interior is really pretty good. It shouldn't be black on the tops of the doors, but I can live with that. It's not my car. If it were mine, all of that stuff would be changed over to the correct red. So that's the interior portion on this thing. So it looks like here, it's a pretty decent car. Cats. You just have to live with them because they're going to do what they're going to do. Now, what I'm going to talk about is the bad, the ugly, and the good on the outside of this car. Bad, oddly enough to me, is this fender. Now, this fender is seeing some damage, but these are fenders you can get. You can get these anywhere. National Parts Depot carries a brand new fender. You put that on there and get this thing repainted. And the black paint actually helps. For your matchup, it's not going to be that big a deal. All right, now, this isn't ugly to me because you've got tires on all four corners on this thing that are dry rotted. Dry rotted tires can damage your car. Get rid of them, get some brand new tires, you'll be a lot better off. Wheel on this thing has seen a scuff. That can be a bad or an ugly. It can be an ugly because if you have to replace this wheel, you're going to have to try to find that wheel, find one exactly like this out there in the world. And you have no idea when those were put on, and you also don't know where the original owner got them from. So that's something you're going to have to deal with. All right, now, here's another one that's probably more of a bad than an ugly. This stuff like this, whenever you're getting the front fender done, you're going to need to work on this, and I would get this fixed when you're getting the fender done. They can usually go in and fade in that black and make that look really, really good. So I would say that's a bad, not an ugly. All right, now what I'm going to talk about is the doors. The doors have a little bit of rust in the bottom front of both doors, but you know what? On this car, I wouldn't be that worried about it. This is just going to be a nice driver for the owner. He's not going to be doing a lot of car shows, at least initially. And again, that's something that could probably be easily repaired and probably blended into the rest of the black if you really wanted to take the time to get that done. So that's something that's, again, to me, it's a bad, it's not an ugly. I tell you what, when it first showed up and I pulled it off the trailer, I was really worried for my buddy.
Yes.
I really was, because I mean,
Looked like he got duped.
it really did.
Yeah.
And then, when I just I parked it and put the cover on it and walked away because I was really bummed out for him.
Yeah.
And then the more I'm around the car, the better I like it. I mean, there's things it needs.
Yeah.
This is the kind of car you and I like.
Yeah, this is the 90% of the hard work is already done, but the last 10% that takes the most time is what needs to be done on
And
it.
honestly, that's where a lot of people fail on these
Yes.
cars, is they don't go that last 10%, and you get a car that's just kind of okay.
Yep.
It's not really quite there. I mean, there's stupid little stuff that we've seen on the undercarriage already. It's like they ran the ATF lines
Under
underneath,
the sway bars.
and it's touching the sway bar.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just,
stupid little stuff like that.
it looks like someone was building it and just wanted to get it done.
You know what we were talking about too is something else we saw on it was that it looked to us like someone started it.
And then maybe took it somewhere, because there's parts of it that are done well.
Yeah.
Like the harness on the firewall is routed really well, it's secured really well, but then you get to the shock towers and it's just a Christmas tree nightmare.
Yeah, and it could have been so much nicer,
Yeah.
and they didn't really go to that extra 9 yards
Yeah.
or the extra 10% on the installation. Well, folks, what I'm going to talk about right now is this. We are going to start doing some things to this car for our friend. Go ahead and get the car in good working order, and then we're going to be doing a 4R70W install on the car as a final thing. And what I wanted to show with the 4R70 on this is just how much easier it is to do one in a Mustang.
How easy it can be.
Oh yeah, compared to a Fairlane. I'm still fighting issues on the Fairlane, but honestly, mostly that problem is mine because I just haven't had time to work on the car. We've had a lot of other fish to fry and a lot of other things going on that have absolutely nothing to do with this show. And since those things are off camera, those things typically don't get done.
Yes.
It's just the way things are around here. Also, do me a favor, check out our Patreon group, folks. At the $10 a month level, you have monthly meetings with me. We have a large group of people that get together. We do tech question Q&A. But with that $10 a month, you also get direct access to me through phone and email. Please don't call me before 9 o'clock Eastern time, and don't call me after 10 o'clock Eastern time, because I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I will not answer you after that time. If you're that panicked,
Get a 6 a.m. What are you wearing? I got a sweet ride.
it's Jake from State Farm. That's just a free State Farm man. Anyway, so, wow, you do this to me every time. Anyway, so do that, check it out, and then go out and subscribe to the channel as well. Please hit that bell for notifications. It's right next to the subscribe. There's little things you can go like notify me every once in a while, notify me on all the videos. Hit the notify me on every video if you like what you see here on the channel, and you'll get stuff from us every week because we post usually 2 videos a week, one for Manic Mechanic, one right here with Autorestomod. And then finally, do me a favor, love on each other, like each other, have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Autorestomod. All right, so now we got to get everything ready for next week, so we need to go in and do the dreaded thing for the owner, which is the parts list.
Yes. Where's the NPD catalog?
Yeah.
Start making checks.
Poor fellow's going to get the note, and it's going to be like, hey man, here's a, hello? Hello? All right, let's get looking at it.